Lowkey Giant. Issue 1. The Queen of Crypto. Lady Phoenix.
Lady Phoenix is a digital pioneer and visionary within the tech and crypto community. As a serial entrepreneur and cultural enthusiast, she has helped to onboard and launch some of the biggest names in digital art and cultural events within the crypto art scene. Her vision of the future is one of healing through personal sovereignty and learning lessons passed down by the ancestors.
Probably my early memory is being in chat rooms as a kid and having my mom be like, "Yo, you still on the chat room? Get off the computer." No, this was nothing crazy. It's like Messenger, you know. It was nothing crazy, but I think for her, it's just that, you know, I don't think she quite understood that the social setting was changing to digital. My very early memory, too, is my mom taking apart a computer with my brother, and then the two of them, because I had no interest, putting it back together. I remember, being in the living room on a Saturday morning. She had a computer. The whole thing was in pieces, you know, like one of those diagnostic diagrams where each piece is, you know, laid out. And she was, teaching my brother how to put it back together. And they did things like that, like changing oil together, changing tires together, because
Lady Phoenix.
my father and mother were divorced, so my mom, you know, taught us everything basically. And so, she taught us that. She was that person with my brother. I was somebody interested in running around and imagining, you know. I have very vivid and wild imagination. And so I'd like to sit around and play movies in my head, write my own movies. I saw a movie, so the characters are Crash and Burn. It's this old movie, like 90s movie, and Angelina Jolie, kind of one of these, like, you know, cult classic. I remember when the guy, like, used sound to hack the payphone to get free calls. I was like, yo. Because I wanted to make movies, right? As a kid, I thought I'm going to be a writer, or I wanted to make movies. And so when he did that, I said, this is crazy. And I said, I can do this with my computer. And I remember trying to, like, make sounds. I kept, like kind of yelling in the speaker. I'm almost embarrassed to say this. But I'd be like, trying to make the computer like thinking I was gonna hack it, right, and do things. But I can't, obviously, because computer is connected to your phone line. So I just thought, I'm gonna go in and like make funny noises and hack this thing. And of course, I did not. All I did is run up the phone bill.
Lady Phoenix.
Went to school for cinema business for like a hot second. Realized, like, actually, I do hate school. So, just it would dip in and out primarily for like social reasons, people I'm dating, my friends, I never really went to school for the education. I just taught myself outside. There were very few of my professors that I felt connected to, or like my teachers really. Became pretty disappointed with school by 8th grade. And so from 8th grade on, it's just, in my mind, kind of feeling like I'm coasting through, right? Because I have to be there. And luckily, the social dynamics, of my best friends and athletics, I loved sports. That kept me in school, kept me on the campus, you know? And so when I finally decided, yeah, it's not really for me at university, just kind of did my own thing traveling. It wasn't until 2014, actually, when I got really interested in art on the blockchain, that technology, that love of technology returned to me. I mean, of course, in my fantasy, right, in my own movie, I'm like this great hacker, right, from the movies I would watch. You know, helping people, you know, reversing the debt system, right, reversing this credit system, and everybody is free now kind of vibes. It wasn't until that time I got super interested in this art on the blockchain and like crypto, and that's when technology, that love returned to me, right? And I thought, okay, this is really cool. It's clearly not chat rooms, but, you know, let me just dip my feet in. So I knew about crypto from 2013, but nobody really knew about crypto. And again, it was kind of this two narratives. One is like, oh, this is the liberation route. The other one was, oh, this is a Silk Road route. Just I'm still observing, right? But very, very interested, doing a lot of research and reading. And my grandmother in that time, she was ill with Alzheimer's. I entered an invite-only
Lowkey Giant
hackathon at the Keck School of Medicine, USC, and I was a finalist. And I was in there with like very smart people. It was my first real hackathon. I had entered one before. Hackathons were not new to me. Again, I love the social element of hackathon and the pitch, like show and tell. It was myself and another gentleman, my buddy, Calvin, we entered it. And because I think it had a real world application for me personally, like for my grandmother, right? It was a VR application for those with Alzheimer's. It just awoke something special in me, something very different. And at that time, it really dawned on me, like, I don't have to be this fantasy person, this hacker, right? That's celebrated in movies or the media. I can actually just do something for those that I love or for humanity. And, you know, that for me is a celebration because it helps people. Yeah, that's what it aligned for me. And I'm like, yo, I can really do this. Tech is like my thing. So again, I had been in hackathons before, 2013, 2014, but I don't know, it didn't really, really click for me. I didn't feel like I belonged until 2015 at USC when I was a finalist in that hackathon. I was like, holy shit, it was their first VR and medicine hackathon. And I thought, this can be a reality. I can actually really help a lot of people right here. And I can help my grandmother. And because I had already experimented, with these ideas with my grandmother, and I saw that it helped her. But then when it was validated by, professionals, right, on their, it was validated by high-level professionals, right? There were 300 of the world's best doctors and medical folks, whether they be sports medicine or, surgeons, whatever it is, even like high-level physical therapists that work with the top, athletes, right, from Olympics or NBA, they were all there. And, the judges who were some of those medical professionals as well as the staff from the Keck School of Medicine and, folks from like Google and Second Life and, all these other companies were like, your idea is amazing and here's my card. My pitching sucked. I still need to work on my pitching. Actually, I'm back then I would say for myself that I'm terribly shy, but what I realized is that I am very introverted and I would prefer to just communicate telepathically. So that time I need to work on my pitching and kind of presenting. I think that tech is now this place. Here I am full circle in 2021 where it's about art on the blockchain again and crypto. And I've come full circle, right? And still with this idea, like, I can actually help people, right? I'm not just in here for vain imagination or vain interest. I'm actually here with a purpose that benefits the whole and not just myself or a very select few. So I'd say that VR Medical Hackathon was when all the lights went on and everything aligned for me. And I just decided, I'm going to stay this path. Plus, I realized at that time, too, which I hadn't quite dialed in before, is as long as I have a computer and an internet connection, I can work from anywhere. Because I think Clubhouse is sort of like MySpace, right? It's one of those technologies and applications that really defines the times that we're living in, right? With everyone, being on lockdown to a certain extent, and COVID in 2020 really changing the landscape of communication, and voice, rising as that primary form, right, of communication, since we can't see each other, right? And so I would say that it's funny because somebody told me, they were asking me what your resume was, and I just told them, you invited people to Clubhouse. And they were like, oh, okay, we get it. They're like, look on people's Clubhouse profile, look at the person who invited him. That's her resume. And I was just like, guys, really? Like, please don't make that my resume. Like, that's not my resume.
Giant.
Again, that's like, that's an invitation to an app. That's not my resume. But I think it's funny, right, when you think about how important social has become to people, and again, that changing landscape. So I would say in the spirit of that, right? I brought NFTs to Clubhouse for sure. Brought the discussion of NFTs to Clubhouse. I'm an advisor in that space of crypto media and NFTs to many of the favorite artists, who will go nameless, but I appreciate them all if they're listening to this interview or reading it. We work with discretion and privacy. So publicly, though, what I can say in terms of names and celebrating and showing appreciation towards the partners that I have worked with, I dropped with my partner Coldy at Universe Contemporary and visual artist Sutu and sonic artist Deadmau5. We dropped their first, Sutu and Deadmau5's first audio reactive NFT. And an audio reactive NFT is a phrase that I coined, and I define it as the perfect choreography between the visual representation and the sonic representation. Yeah, so it's about the choreography. I am teaching crypto media at Harvard and Dartmouth as a guest lecturer. My appointment with Dartmouth has ended, but not with Harvard. So really excited about that. And the idea is I was teaching a course called Art and the Economy of Ideas. And the reason why I chose that for the title of the course is that my very first art show in 2018 at the MOAD, the Museum of the the Museum of the African Diaspora, which is a Smithsonian affiliate. That was my first show there, Digitalia, Art and the Economy of Ideas. And this is a continuation of that work and those thoughts. And I really looked at how Black culture was being expressed in the digital media and digital space, and also the visual language and literally the economy of ideas. Black kids run the internet, and so looking at how we're able to monetize our personal economy and monetize our communities based on our brilliance, right? Based on our ingenuity, based on our creative and visual musings, and wanted to carry that on into an academic setting to discuss how we can do that in the context of sovereignty, creative sovereignty, and also a type of creative reparations. And so I want to you know, be very clear that when I say creative reparations, I'm not talking about the reparations owed to folks who've done, 400 years of slave labor and service, right? That's really different. That still needs to be that bill is overdue. What I'm speaking about is the ability, one to another, to provide a type of reparations, to repair, right, or restore. I find that I don't want to wait for a guilty party to take responsibility and do the right thing, right? That says a lot about them that they refuse to do that. I want to be in a position and use my knowledge and power and ability to gather folks together. I want to use all of my gifts and my network to begin repairing and restoring from within my family, my friend group, my community, and for me, that's the creative community, right? So happy about that. And that's why I call it a type of creative reparations. And to that point, also really happy to have, and honored really, to have worked with Bootsy Collins' first NFT and Thelonious Monk first NFT. And I call these legacy NFTs because in the legacy NFT, we're able to first pay tribute to the OGs, right, to people who were doing it. And, this type of technology has the opportunity for living artists like Bootsy as well to continue adding to their legacy. And I've read a lot of commentary online, mostly from critics these days, just seeing what the opposition thinks. And a lot of it is around like NFTs are, nothing special except that they offer royalties on the secondary market for artists. And I think, wow, it's nothing special? The whole financial system goes crazy about dividends, right? And dividends are like 62 cents sometimes from a company that you invest in. But I guess there's nothing special. This is a type of dividend, if you will, or, type of royalty for folks who have given years, right? And if you think about that again, collective reparations, the collective energy of creatives who have given and never really gotten their due, right? Never were properly compensated or recognized for their genius and sharing their gifts. Artists inspire the entire world. Nothing is made without that. From food to music to architecture, it's the creative imagination of all those artists, even if they don't call themselves artists. Creative people make things be. So it is, right? That's what creative people say, so it is, and it appears, right? And so they're powerful manifestors in that way. And we have to start taking care of those people. And are the NFTs like the end all be all, like, okay, life is perfect now for artists because we have NFTs? Of course not, right? We have to be realistic. But is it a start? 100%. Number one, leave your ego at the door. Actually, don't even leave it at the door. Just leave it behind completely. And come in fresh with new eyes and new expectations. Don't approach this from an old mind. And in particular, don't approach it from your wounds. Right? This is a new space. There's new fresh water here, clean water. Don't come to it as a money grab, thinking that you're a celebrity or you're not a celebrity but want to become one by, having a really successful drop in NFTs. This space, by and large, for me personally, is about two things. Number one, community, right? If you want to go fast, you go by yourself. Those are the people rushing in because the space is white hot and they just want to do the drop and get their money and run off. And that's great. Everyone has different needs. I'm not mad at that. You only care to drop some, rando NFT in an attempt to cash in. That mentality is what I'm illustrating is connected to ego and should be left behind. The cash grab, the cash in mentality is, for me, the fiat mentality and shouldn't be brought to the space. But people are going to bring it. But rather than just focusing on the money, you want to actually focus on presenting a great artwork. Because if you focus on presenting a great artwork, it will outlast your need for money. We need more visual assets, things that actually vibrationally even uplift people, uplift the aesthetic, right? And so for me, those two things are community and sovereignty, right? So rather than thinking I'm coming in, just get my money, think about actually being in a place where, your practice supports you, right? Thinking about your own personal sovereignty. Because when you focus and put your own personal sovereignty and the community first, those other things seem to naturally follow. I think 80% of the people rushing to get onto the space now, including all these random platforms that have popped up, they're going to fail. They're failing now, right? Platforms that focus strictly on money gets, behavior are imploding from the inside. I really caution people to be mindful in approaching something that looks like gold, because it's actually not gold. My grandmother, who's from the South, she's passed now, bless her. She, when I was little, my grandmother, I would say, is my very dear friend, because in spirit she lives on, but in flesh she definitely was like just my best buddy. I loved my grandmother so much, and I just thought she was hilarious. Like, we come from really two different worlds. She's a Southern Creole woman. She has her own like interesting sayings and way of speaking and way of like thinking about the world. And I remember from a very young age, every time I made an assumption about something, or I didn't carefully go into a situation about something with mindfulness, she would tell me, "Oh, you thought like lit, L-I-T." And finally I told her, I would be like, "Well, I thought this was this," and she would just say, "Well, you thought like lit." And finally I told her, "Grandma, who is lit?" And she would laugh, and she'd say, "You're gonna find out." And finally, I know, really, and this is from when I'm little, right? Growing up. And I would say, "Really, please tell me. I'm so curious about this lit person. They must be very wise by now." Because you would tell me each time you thought like lit, and lit is very wrong a lot of the time. So I need to understand, like, what is the life of this lit character? And again, my imagination and, automatically playing these movies in my head as a kid, I've made up a whole narrative about lit, And so finally one day, on one of my big boo-boos, big kind of like, damn, I really got this one wrong, she said, "Yeah, I told you, you and lit would be very good friends." And I said, "Finally, please tell me who is lit." And she said, "Yeah, so when I say you thought like lit was somebody. He was, didn't take his time, rushing, wasn't patient, would just, hear a little something and run off." And so she says, "Yeah, so lit was, thought he saw a candy bar, and they tried to explain to him that it looked like a candy bar, but before they can say it wasn't a candy bar, lit ran off, picked it up, and just put it in his mouth." And I was like, "Okay, but what was it?" And she said, "Well, from that moment, we've developed this saying, you thought like lit, and lit ate shit." And so that's why I put a premium on sovereignty and community. And I think it's my professional opinion that by making those two aspects the focus, right, of how they enter the space, right, the mindfulness with which they approach the space, then they can avoid being in company with lit.
Lady Phoenix. Lowkey Giant. Issue 1.